realized that there's a lot of people out there who could use the help. And I decided to write a book, a step-by-step guide on how to get your products into retailers for people with no sales experience or buyer relationships. I wrote it about a year ago, I would say, maybe a little less. And it was kind of like, it came up because I kept seeing entrepreneurs talk about their same ideas, and then they never did anything about it. And they sat with it because they didn't have enough information. And I couldn't possibly take on all the projects that were coming my way. So why not help people in the process? Well, it turns out, after writing the book and teaching these classes, turns out that I like this even more than I like the selling. And it's turned into this whole thing, and I love it. And now I'm doing webinars and videos and coming to speak at inventors groups, and like this, it's just begun, right? So that's what So my goal here today is just to give you as much information as possible, help you out as much as I can, so at least you know what to do, so you can make better decisions for yourself and your stuff. So after every slide, you guys can throw out some questions. I don't have a whole lot of time today. Usually I take 2 to 3 hours, so maybe a couple questions after each slide, and just so it's a little bit more interactive. It's not me talking, I'm here for you. But I will try and answer as much as I can. So let's talk about why I believe that anyone can sell to major retailers. So first of all, there's so many different misconceptions of people who don't know anything about retail, and it's just because you haven't been in the business. There's, again, if you go online and research, not everybody shares this stuff. I don't know why. I actually realize that the more I share, the more people come to me anyhow. So it's like, why not just just provide information and just help people out? But really, at the end of the day, buyers are looking for you as much as you're looking for them. So major retailers, you have to think about it. They are, they're running a business here, and their business is about product and getting stuff into stores. And they are looking for, they have a lot of competition. They have a lot of people that they are selling against. So, every one major retailer has 15 other retailers who are trying to grab those same customers. So as much as they love having the same stuff that sells all the time, they can't afford to not have new items come into their store. They need new products. They need you. And the truth is, and a common misconception is, that if you only have one SKU, then you're not ready to go to retail. You need to be a big company, established company, in order to get into these big chain stores. The truth is that just to give you guys an idea, every company, most of the companies I've represented, have only started with one SKU. One SKU meaning one product, one item. They don't have a slew of different products. So, the great thing is that they're looking for you. They're looking for something new and innovative. And they actually set up days of the week and days out of the month to be able to meet people like you to look at new products. It's a huge thing for them. They're always looking for new items. So never think that there's no way that you can do it, because I've seen some of the weirdest products get into stores, and it just keeps happening, right? So, again, they're dealing with a tremendous amount of competition. They can't afford to ignore product. And the one thing that you should know is that buyers, and we'll talk about this later, but buyers shop other stores. So the Target buyer is going to Macy's and Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's. The Bloomie's buyer is going to Home Depot. I'm telling you, they are looking everywhere. They want to see, because sometimes a product will pop up that they're going to notice that maybe they didn't see before. They have to. They spend full days going shopping. So just so you know, they're always paying attention to what's going on in other stores, and that'll actually help you, and we'll talk about that later. But so just know that. And again, they're in the business of generating, revenue, and they don't have, and you just don't have to be a big company in order to go after big chain stores. So those are the key takeaways. Oh, before I go on, any questions?
I didn't catch the name of your book.
Oh, it's called Product for Profit. So my website is productforprofit.com. I have some books here. We'll talk about it later.
Okay, thank you.
Karen, I think it's very encouraging that you say that retailers don't mind one product, one SKU companies. Do you have some techniques for dealing with that? Their apprehension to put you on the books when you got another company that's got 40 products? I mean, what are the ways of reassuring them that you're going to be a good vendor?
There's so many different ways that you can have that conversation with the buyer, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later. But I mean, essentially, part of it's going to be a little risk on their part. Yes, they're going to be a little bit nervous, but I promise you that I've heard it over and over again. if a product, somebody actually was in this class and they said, you know, I had this one item and then Target saw it and then put it on their shelves. And it's a one SKU item and they're going against how many people want to get into Target. And they got their stuff from the shelves for a whole year at Target. You know, and it was like by chance. You know, he can explain the story a little bit more, but really it's possible. And what it comes down to is if a buyer wants it bad enough, they'll be interested in it. If a buyer sees your product in other stores, and we'll talk about how to do that, maybe you don't go after the biggest major retailer first, so that's an option as well. You know, maybe you can show them some numbers. You sold your product online and it's selling. Maybe if you can't get into this round, you can do a couple things to make sure that, you know, find out what's important to them and then come back to that buyer and say, hey, I'm ready now. If this isn't the time, I can show you some numbers, and, you know, and you keep working until you get into that store. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. We'll talk about that. So I'll explain that a little bit more. Any other questions?
Do you come across some retailers that are more scrupulous than others, or because I know somebody who did a deal with Target and Smith and Hawken, and this guy just basically got bent over hugely by Target. Anyway.
Yeah, you know, sometimes it goes that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes I've heard success stories where somebody's gotten into a big chain store and they've just made a fortune and they just keep blowing. And sometimes you get a product into a retailer and they kill you and they're just really, really hard to deal with in terms of financials. Maybe they're making you cut down on price and stuff. It happens. It totally happens. You know, there's, you have to put yourself out there, you know, and you have to risk it sometimes because there's not all bad stories. And I don't know his story, so I don't know why, you know, what happened there or pricing and stuff like that. But I mean, you know, people talk about those stories all the time, and it scares other people into going after their dream and doing that stuff. And I tell people, you know, please don't make that the reason that you don't go ahead and do stuff like that. I mean, he had a ride, he had an experience of getting into Target. There's a lot of things behind that. It's a growth and development, certain things about your product. So, and we can talk about that a little bit more, about some ideas and things that we can work on to have a better experience with the retailer. Okay. So let's talk about the benefits of selling to major retailers. Really, at the end of the day, it's one buyer can buy a lot of quantity. And it's really a lot faster than going after a mom and pop store, which basically means a smaller store, a smaller chain. And then obviously if you sell your product to one of these big guys, you can make some real money. You know, at the end of the day, selling to the big chain stores, I honestly believe that it takes just the amount of effort to call a small retailer as it does to call a big chain store. It's the same calls, figuring out their names and their information, than it is going after a big retailer. Obviously, you have to prepare your product for major retail success, and we'll talk about that. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of the same kind of energy, so why not do both and see where it takes you? And that's kind of where I kind of feel like, and at the end of the day, if one big chain picks you up, you know, there could be a possibility that other chain stores pick you up as well, and then, you know, things can go that route. So I'm a true believer in that. So the benefits of selling to retailer yourself, really at the end of the day, you can save on commission dollars. Sounds kind of weird coming from a manufacturer's rep, but people always ask me how much it costs to work with a manufacturer's rep, and you know, I tell them it varies depending on the type of product you have, as well as you know, how established they are. You can pay anywhere from 5% to 20, 30%, you know, of your you know, of your order from a retailer. So it totally varies, but it's a decent amount of your you know, income, as well as the more established manufacturers reps will actually probably ask you for some upfront fees because it takes them time to use their knowledge. So, you know, there's money involved, and unfortunately not all manufacturers reps are created equal. And sometimes, I've heard a lot of stories even in the inventors group where they say, hey, I went to this person, they told me that they could help me with all these different things, and then what happened? They didn't do anything, and then I didn't get my product out there. And so that happens. Now, I'm not saying that everybody does that. I clearly, you know, I wouldn't say that about myself, but it does happen. And so if you could actually save some of that money and put it toward advertising costs or something like that, hey, that could be interesting. The other thing to think about is that, you know, you're more motivated